Long renowned for its long working hours, deeply hierarchical nature, and emphasis on harmony, it's safe to say that work culture in Japan is vastly different from the rest of the world. Japanese people are globally renowned for their strong work ethic, hard work, and ingenuity. However, the issue of long working hours has overshadowed their brilliant achievements. The long hours associated with Japanese work life are not a coincidence. The idea of hard work is something well enshrined in Japanese work culture. This can be traced back to the early 1920s. Japan at the time was experiencing rapid industrialization and militarization. Under the slogan, Fukoku Kyohei, the country significantly expanded its industries and military. Soon, it emerged as a major global power. During this period, Japanese companies were already competing in the global marketplace with the United States, the Britain and others. Japan wanted to dominate global commerce. The country tapped its vast workforce to build a diversified economy. Large corporations were actively and simultaneously recruiting talented young graduates. This was done all over the country. This tradition is known locally as Shinsatsu Akatsu Sayo. This dedicated work ethic continued even after the Second World War. Japan was devastated by the war. The nuclear attacks in Hiroshima and Nagasaki led to its surrender. The country was faced with the unprecedented challenge of rebuilding its economy from the ashes. Japan also had to pay war reparations to the Western Allies. This meant that it had to put a huge percentage of its population at work. The country also had a very robust military-industrial complex that was used to support the war effort. There was already a culture of organized production too. The state tapped into this manufacturing history to rebuild the nation. In the 1960s, Japanese companies were competing at the global front. They went head-on with major Western corporations and won. Children were raised to believe that the ultimate goal is to become a salaryman. This is a colloquial local term used in Japan. It refers to white-collar workers who show exemplary loyalty and dedication to the corporations they work for. Many in Japanese society felt that working for such prestigious companies is the true mark of Japanese excellence. Japan has some of the world's longest working hours. In fact, their work hours are such a significant issue that karoshi, a Japanese term which translates as overworked death, is a legally recognized cause of death. The concept of passive endurance and active perseverance, also known as gammon and ganbaru, is highly valued in Japanese culture and clearly reflected in the workplace. The most common medical causes of karoshi deaths are heart attacks or strokes due to stress and a starvation diet. Mental stress from the workplace can also cause karoshi through workers taking their own lives. People who commit suicide due to overwork are called karojisatsu. According to a survey from the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, nearly 1/4 of Japanese firms had full-time employees who logged over 80 hours of overtime in a single month, with an additional 12% of employees breaking the 100-hour mark. These extra hours are often unpaid. Matsuri Takahashi was 24 when she killed herself in April 2015. Labor standards officials ruled that her death had been caused by stress brought on by long working hours. Takahashi had been working more than 100 hours overtime in the months before her death. Weeks before she died on Christmas Day 2015, she posted on social media, "I want to die." Another message read, "I'm physically and mentally shattered." Her case triggered a national debate about Japan's work practices and forced the Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, to address a workplace culture that often forces employees to put in long hours to demonstrate their dedication, even if there is little evidence that it improves productivity. Japanese society places strong importance on the hierarchical relationship between a senior and a junior. Known as the Nenku Juretsu system, this principle is one that permeates Japan's corporate culture, which places respect and value on seniority. The importance of hierarchy is rooted in Confucianism, which emphasizes social relationships based on each individual's position in society. For many years, Japanese companies also maintained a seniority-based wage and promotion system. This meant that all new employees would be issued a standard basic wage and receive pay increases or promotions based on their years of service rather than on merit. This practice discouraged employees from changing jobs, as employees who left to join another firm would likely have to start from the bottom of the totem pole again on a lower salary. In recent years, however, Japanese firms have been seeing a change from the seniority system to the more globally recognized merit-based system. A form of social etiquette that is integral to traditional Japanese firms is drinking with colleagues after work, or nomikai. This practice is seen as a way of letting loose and is used to strengthen the camaraderie between coworkers, particularly bosses and employees. These late-night drinking sessions with the boss can sometimes go on for hours until someone finally relents or passes out. Nomikai is part and parcel of networking in Japan, and participation in such events can provide opportunities for employees seeking to climb the corporate ladder. One of the most important values of Japanese culture is group harmony, or prioritizes the needs of society rather than personal interest or opinion. Instead of making decisions based on individual authority, Japanese companies tend to take a holistic approach, emphasizing group consensus in order to maintain peaceful cooperation within the organization. For instance, employees may refrain from taking holidays to avoid becoming a burden to colleagues, or work overtime, as leaving early is often deemed to exemplify individualism and selfishness, thereby breaking the so-called harmony of the team. It is also considered impolite to leave the office before the boss. Besides, there is no Japanese employee who wants to leave the office first. If they have worked the 8 hours required, they will do overtime. Japanese employees always want to give more than is required of them. On a more positive note, Japanese managers are also often responsible for taking up the role of a mentor, providing their employees with guidance whilst encouraging group harmony. Japanese people have a strong work ethic. This dedication has led to immense prosperity in Japan. Japanese corporations continue to dominate global markets, all thanks to the hard work of each employee. But this admirable dedication to hard work seems to affect job happiness in the country. According to a job happiness index released by Indeed, Japanese workers are the unhappiest in the developed world. The report tracks job happiness indicators in 35 relatively developed countries. Interestingly, employees consider compensation the least most important factor when they analyze job satisfaction.